Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to have with us this morning for the inaugural session Shri Shashi S. Vempati, the Chief Executive Officer of Prasar Bharati, Shri Atul K. Tiwari, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, Mr. Eric Fald, the Director of UNESCO, Dr. Sachidananda Joshi, Member Secretary, IGNCA, Professor Ramesh Gaur, Dean and Head, Kalanidhi, IGNCA, and Archana Kapoor, the founder of the Radio Festival. Without further ado, I now invite on stage the torchbearer behind this entire show, Ms. Archana Kapoor, the founder of the Radio Festival, to unveil the two-day celebration of the World Radio Day and tell us the philosophy behind it.
Once again, a very good morning. It's been very exciting, sir, since morning. In the real spirit, Radio Day ko celebrate kiya ja raha hai. We had a wonderful performance by Vadyavrind, courtesy AIR in the morning. It was beautiful. The whole hall was packed and people were rocking to it. Then we had a lovely discussion on the old versus new, the boomer versus millennial, the changing language of radio. We had a showcase by IGNCA, who's been our host. And here we are, sir. We are delighted to have you and Additional Secretary Shri Atul Tiwari ji and Eric Falt, the Director of UNESCO. I know all of you are very busy. I don't need to say much about radio because all those people who are here with us are radio enthusiasts and believe in the power of radio. We all know that radio is a powerful mass medium that informs, educates, educates and engages with communities. It is inclusive, it preserves diversity, and it preserves the identity of communities. With so many channels of community radio, about 280, private channels, around 500, all India radio channels, all including the low transmitters and everything, around 750. I think that radio is the only medium which is covering about 99%, if not 100% of this population. In the last few years, and there have been plenty of researches, we have seen that the growth of radio, its reach and its penetration has been increasing over time. It's only second to television, that too when we compare it with the metro and not the rural areas. It is a free medium. It is an accessible medium. It is one which promotes two-way communication. As Brecht said, the time has come that this medium is not only a distribution medium, but it should become a communication medium. And that is where I think community radios are playing a very important role. I cannot but talk about community radios because I belong to that sector. I am a community broadcaster and run a radio station in Mewat. I'm very happy to tell you, sir, there are about 100 community radio stations which are participating in this festival. We have, for the first time, through the radio festival, broken the silos. Public broadcasting was always looked at upon as government spokesperson. The private commercial channels were always looked upon as those who only look at commerce and are only looking at entertainment. And the burden of development fell on the shoulders of community radio. Through this festival, we have proven in the third edition that there are no barriers to communication. We are all one. We have broken these walls with All India Radio and the private channels and the community radios together at this occasion, which I think is the only radio festival in the country which brings together people and celebrates audio. We have forgotten the audio in our lives. We have become so visual-centric. The sounds of the birds, the sounds of the water, the sounds of seas, the sounds of mountains, the sounds of pain, anguish, pleasure, happiness. We have just forgotten those sounds in this crazy movement about going, digital, going visual, doing everything. I'm not saying that we have to keep pace with technology, but we have to remember the millions of people who do not have access to internet, who do not have access to digital. They are our listeners. They are our participants. We have only been able to provide them access and a form of entertainment which is still free, which is still available on a feature phone. I'm not talking about the smartphones which do not allow, which have become barriers. But when you go to a village and you hear them talk about what they've heard on radio, it is very heartening. With these words, sir, I would request everybody to be part of this festival. We have had the support of UNESCO, and without UNESCO, we wouldn't be sitting here. For 2 years, we did this festival in the UNESCO premises with their support, and we thought we need to enlarge, and UNESCO was very kind, IGNCA was very kind to give us these premises. And here we are, we have already about 600 people attending this festival. It's really, if radio is not part of the masses, then radio is not successful. And I think this radio festival aims at that. It needs to give the mic to the people, to the masses, and in one big way, celebrate sound, celebrate audio, and celebrate music. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Archana ji. Let us now invite on stage Mr. Eric Falt, Director and UNESCO Representative to Bhutan, India, Maldives, and Sri Lanka, to talk about the World Radio Day and its celebration.
Dear friends, lovers of radio, and advocates of free and accessible media, good morning to all of you. It is certainly a pleasure to be here this morning for this third edition. You know, at the beginning, World Radio Day was just an idea. It was an idea to have one day to commemorate the significance of radio in our lives, and also the part that it plays in communicating our agenda of development to the last mile. With the relentless efforts of our wonderful partners at SMART, Archana in particular, we are here observing the day as a celebration of sound and radio. As the Radio Festival enters its third edition, I really want to, right from the beginning, congratulate all of the partners who have been involved and for shaping it the way that it is today. It's particularly great also to see people who've come from far and wide, and to see young people who are interested in celebrating radio today. India is, of course, in keeping with the slogan for this year, a land of diversity. I would even say the very land of diversity. And it is incredible how radio in this vastly populated country has managed to reach and communicate in a very personal way to almost everyone, irrespective of their gender, class, creed, and ethnicity. You've just heard some of the figures quoted by Archana, that it is true that all the statistics show that a staggering 99%, so yes, it's virtually all of India, which has access to radio, with FM radio reaching 65%. So this really makes radio the most powerful medium of mass communication. This is a fact that indeed we have perhaps a little bit forgotten with the all-powerful influence of television and other visual media. But as it is said, often with great power comes great responsibility. We at UNESCO in particular believe that with such an expansive reach throughout India, the onus lies on the radio today to ensure equal representation from every pocket of the society, both in the newsroom and on the airwaves. On this World Radio Day, UNESCO all over the world, not just in India, calls on radio stations to, in particular, uphold diversity. Vivita main ekta, unity in diversity, keeping with the true spirit of broadcast in India. All India Radio, also our partner in co-organizing this event, is certainly an example. I understand that there are over 415 radio stations in about 23 languages, a very important aspect. I think the preservation of the languages of India is also an important element, but perhaps we can talk about that more at some later stage. All India Radio is also one of the oldest and largest radio broadcasters in the world that caters to the widest possible range of listeners. And certainly we see AIR as an example of this diversity. Looking more broadly at radio, after a century of existence, we see that it has certainly evolved more than anybody ever expected or anticipated. In the old days, radio was based on transistors, and they have today given way to computers and mobile phones, probably a large proportion. I don't have the statistics of people listen to radio on their mobile phone today. And the invention of the podcast also in the last decade has made it possible to develop new kinds of radio scripts and create programming that is free of the constraints of live broadcasts. With the rise of social media, also we see citizen listeners who have become part of the broadcasting experience and even help to shape their programs. Radio stations, whether they are FM radio stations or digital radio stations, must now deal also with this new form of citizen participation. And radios are also bridging, to a large extent, probably not enough, and that's true all over the world, the information gender divide by making women the narrators of their own stories. Radio has given more space to women who have been not only regular listeners since the early days of the medium, but also now much more participants in radio. So when we talk about diversity on the airwaves, we cannot also rule out the importance of community radio. I'm just touching on a lot of aspects today on this occasion of World Radio Day, but it is important to outline also the importance of community radio because it is an alternative to public and commercial media as well as social media, and very much characterized by its accountability and in particular, yes, the participation of the communities that it involves. And there again at UNESCO we believe that community radio can be used as a tool for good governance. It can be used for information dissemination about societal and individual entitlements, and in some cases, as we saw, for instance, in Kerala and Orissa, also disaster risk management. Moreover, it can enable the most vulnerable to become active participants in decision-making process. Community radio is important because it serves communities of the most underserved people who have been left out often by the education system, especially those who cannot read and write. Even they can access information through radio. It is a media which does not need expensive internet bandwidth to operate. Rather, it promotes the spirit of sharing of resources. Community radio is also the most appropriate technology for information and knowledge dissemination. Again, not only in India, but all over the world. And this brings me very quickly to the next important point that I want to convey, which is to focus on the Sustainable Development Goals. I hope many of you are familiar with this agenda, which represents the first time ever in the history of humanity that all countries of the world agreed on a specific agenda, and that we all need to promote. We just have now only, well, since we just entered 2020, only 1 decade left to work towards achieving the Agenda 2030. And there again, we at UNESCO believe that when it comes to communicating the goals to every person all the way into what we call the last mile, community radio becomes an integral part of the entire process and has a very special role to play. That is why I want to mention the publication that we're going to launch in a few minutes. It's a publication entitled Communicating the Sustainable Development Goals, a toolkit for community radio, which has been developed by SMART in close cooperation with UNESCO. Our colleagues of UNICEF were also involved. And this is a toolkit which is intended as a practical user's guide to well, perhaps in a way simplify the SDGs and teach, educate broadcasters on how they can communicate about the Sustainable Development Goals. You know, this is an ambitious set of goals which includes the eradication of poverty, reducing inequalities, economic growth, and much more. And in this regard, it is important to say that together, a few years ago, governments, civil society, private sector, citizens alike pledged to leave no one behind as part of Agenda 2030. And if we want to leave no one behind, we have to give voices to those who are furthest. Far and wide, absolutely nothing can beat radio. And that is why we're celebrating today the power of radio through this World Radio Day. Thank you very much.
It's an honor to have with us Mr. Atul Kumar Tiwari, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. I request him, sir, to please come and address this diverse and inclusive gathering on the occasion of World Radio Day.
Mr. Vempati, CEO of Prasar Bharati, Mr. Holt, Professor Gaur, Mrs. Kapoor, and all the delegates here, some of which I can recognize as Mrs. Carr, Mrs. Goyal, my namesake Mr. Atul Tiwari, and many others. One cannot but get enthused by the enthusiasm of Mrs. Kapoor for the radio movement and also the support being given by the UNESCO. If you were to look into the sessions which have been designed today, and I will just, with your permission, just read out what are the sessions which have been done, is something which is extremely forward-looking and which takes into account not only the challenges but also the opportunities in the radio sector. One is on boomer versus millennial, changing language of radio, gender bender or gender barrier, the radio debate, rising above the din, I like it the best, voice from South Asia, it is okay to talk, and best of all is poetry of inspiration. Then you also take into account the podcast revolution, digital stories of oral communities, which is a very strong tradition and discourse. Here the dance, then Radio 2030, radio as a spectacle, story as a community connect, and so on and so forth. From the government side, we attach a lot of importance to the radio. We have FM radios, we have community radios, and of course, Mr. Vempati will talk at length probably about the All India Radio and FM radio, radio on air, and all that Prasar Bharati is doing to further upgrade its infrastructure and content for the radio listeners. We have set up a task to bring community radio closer to you, and we have invited a lot of applications. There are certain things which we need to do, for which also we have been in touch with Mrs. Kapoor, SMART, and trying to further liberalize the guidelines for giving community radio licenses. For the FM radio also, we are very soon waiting for the TRI's recommendations. Then we will also go ahead for the FM radio auctions in the Tier 3, Tier 4, and leftover cities. As regarding the future, we are also, through Prasar Bharati and All India Radio, we are also doing the trial run for digital radio. And I hope that within 2-3 years, we'll be able to have a digital radio policy working as well. I'm very happy, and thank you to you, Mrs. Kapoor, and all the people here to invite me here. I'm really happy to see that still people are so much enamored and enthused and inspired by the radio, which used to be quite a significant part of our growing up. When we used to have a bush baton radio attached to our ears and listening to commentaries or the film songs or the dramas or Hawa Mahal and kind of things. I hope all the people here in their enterprises will be able to bring back that romance of listening to the radio again by not only experimenting with newer kind of contents, but also to take advantage of the technological advances that is being made in this sector. And I wish the radio festival all success. I'm also very happy that the UNESCO and UNICEF are also bringing out the toolkit for the SDG and the radio system itself, which is also a remarkable effort, and I'm sure the people in this area will take advantage of that. And I once again thank you for coming here, and also thank you Mrs. Kapoor and SMART and other organizers for bringing me here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind and encouraging words. Our esteemed guests have been repeatedly telling us this morning about the importance and significance of community radio, which is a radio service offering a third model of radio broadcasting in addition to commercial and public broadcasting. Recognizing its role and importance, UNESCO shall now release Communicating the Sustainable Development Goals, a toolkit for community radio. Radio, and particularly All India Radio, survived the era of television. And it is really surprising that it has even survived the age of internet, digital media, and the new media. And one man largely and hugely responsible for this is our CEO of Prasar Bharati, Shashi S. Vempati. We are truly indebted to him for his vision and his dynamism that has taken radio in a big way forward and made it so popular with the younger generation more than ever before. I would now like to request Sir to please come and address the gathering and deliver the keynote address.
Good morning. Atul Kumar Tiwari ji, my colleague in the Ministry, Additional Secretary, Mr. Eric from UNESCO, Professor Gaur, Archana ji, and all of you radio enthusiasts. It's exciting to be here today for the radio festival on the occasion of World Radio Day. I think you have vastly overstated my role in popularizing radio. I think one man who has actually brought radio back center stage to our public discourse is the Prime Minister with his Man Ki Baat. I think it's been a long time since someone in office took radio as a medium seriously and has put his energy into it every month. So All India Radio has come a long way. I was very fortunate when I had my first visit to AR Chennai when I joined Prasar Bharati 2017. They played a clip from the archives, and it was the first radio broadcast from then AR Madras station by C. Rajagopalachari, where he speaks about how the airwaves are carrying his voice. So that is the long legacy and history of All India Radio. It predates independent India by at least a couple of decades. And a lot of that archive is being digitized, is being made public by the wonderful team at the AAR archives. And if you visit our YouTube channel, you'll see a lot of interesting old content that has been made public from radio, including speeches by Netaji Subhash Bose during the Indian National Army days. The first broadcast I spoke about, C. Rajagopalachari. And then interestingly, a lot of audio from the Constituent Assembly debates, because we all keep talking about constitutional values. In fact, of late it has become very fashionable to talk about constitutional values, but very few people actually have probably gone through what exactly happened during the Constituent Assembly. And this audio is perhaps the most rare living memory of those debates. So I would urge everyone to look at this archival material that we've made public. This year's theme for your World Radio Day is diversity, and All India Radio is perhaps the best example of diversity on radio. We have several hundred languages and dialects in which content is being created. As was shared earlier, many hundred transmitters, perhaps the most complex radio network in the world, both in terms of its sheer scale, size, and complexity of services. In terms of the number of languages, dialects, ensuring every region finds its voice. I think it's a daunting task, and All India Radio has delivered on it. And of course, we brought it to the new age. One of the first challenges that I faced in office was, okay, if we have this vast network of radio services, how do I know what is going on where? Right? And so it was very important for us to bring all this online and digital. And today it's happened with our News on Air app. It's available both on Android and iPhone. And on this app, you get the entire radio network of All India Radio practically as live streams, 200 plus live streams that you can browse and listen to. So it's a phenomenal achievement. So you can be anywhere in the world and you can listen to your hometown, the voices from your hometown. So in that sense, it is keeping radio alive for the young generation. Couple of years back, we also integrated All India Radio Services with Amazon Alexa. Historically, radio was something you listened to. Now you have a radio that you can actually command and talk to and get what you want. So in that sense, All India Radio has, is preparing itself for the artificial intelligence era as well, in terms of how to make content available through these new age smart devices. One of the challenges that we will continue to face is servicing the needs of a very diverse population. Every time there's a cricket match and we take 8 hours of commentary, there's people complaining that their classical music is off air, their songs are off air, and so on. So hence it becomes very important that we bring digital broadcasting very quickly. Tiwari ji spoke about it, how the ministry and Prasar Bharati are working together on this. In fact, yesterday we had a couple of events on digital radio, 2 competing standards. I mean, what can be better where you have 2 competing standards vying for your attention that this should be the future of digital radio in India. So hopefully we'll soon go through our tests, our trials, and come up with a roadmap on what is the future of digital radio in India. Meanwhile, we have about 20 odd transmitters, 30 transmitters, which are already digital capable. So what we have done is, in cities where we have more than 1 transmitter, we have said at least 1 transmitter we will operate in digital mode, see what the reaction is, what the feedback is. Similarly, wherever we have a digital transmitter, at least for a few hours during the day, the broadcast will be digital. So this is a small step, a beginning, and hopefully, as he pointed out, the roadmap within 2-3 years, probably by 24, we will have digital radio services in India. So that's an aspiration. The role of radio, I won't understate it. I think everyone has spoken about it. What I see is increasingly our attention spans are going down with WhatsApp and Twitter and the TikTok and so on. Nothing seems to sustain our attention beyond 30 seconds. I think in that era, radio plays a very important role, where you can, it plays in the background and it doesn't interfere with your work. At the same time, it can really focus your attention on a topic or a subject. So I would really urge everyone within this radio movement to work closely with schools, children, get them to appreciate radio as a medium better, because it's not only a great learning tool. You can learn language, you can learn diction, but you can also train that mind to focus and pay attention, which is probably going to be a very important skill set, because the sheer exposure of devices and gaming, attention spans are going down. So clearly radio could be a counter instrument or a platform to change that environment. So with that, my very best wishes to everyone for World Radio Day, and looking forward to being associated with this radio festival going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Your small steps have made radio take great leaps in the field of broadcasting. And now we shall have the vote of thanks by Ramesh Gaur, Dean and Head, Kalanidhi IGNCA.
It's a proud privilege, it's an honor to thank all those who have been working hard to make this program a great success. Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts, a premier research and academic institute, which is acquiring, promoting, disseminating Indian cultural heritage. It has a very great connect with the radio. Like, it is a dual purpose. The first most important purpose is preserving those heritage, the collections, the artists, the information, resources about those artists. You can find a lot of information, resources in IGNCA archive. Just I want to give you an example. You all know Thakur Jaidev Singh, a great name. We have a personal collection of Thakur Jaidev Singh in our personal library, reference library. So many of the things which you want to know about, you want to know about the person, about the great work, the collection, IGNCA is the place. We have many audio collections, Sadagopan collection, Ranganayaki Iyer collection, or various recordings, interviews done in form of audio in 50s and 60s. So we have a complete list available. Those who are interested can visit us and can work on these. Apart from that, we also need a great help from radio in disseminating information about our great cultural heritage. Like we have more than 600,000 manuscripts, we have more than 100,000 visuals, rare books, all kind of resources, but many people are not aware of that. And radio, being one of the very largest media, can help us in promoting and disseminating information about these resources to the researcher all over India, because many of them are not aware of it. Besides, we have done small efforts in promoting, like we have a Sangam app which was developed, which includes about 2,500 Bhakti Sangeet, which anybody can use it. It's a mobile app, has also been developed. So in various small activities, IGNCA is trying to contribute and also helping in the cause. As a proud host, we feel honored having this event at IGNCA. Let me just start thanking all those who have made this event a grand success. The SMART team under the leadership of Mrs. Archana Kapoor. So please give a big hand to the team of SMART for doing hard work in making this event. The UNESCO team under the leadership of Mr. Eric Falt and Mr. Hezekiel Jilamani also deserve a good round of applause. And undoubtedly, as a partner, my entire team at IGNCA, under our guidance of our member secretary, Dr. Sachidanand Joshi, who is not able to come because of some meeting, important meeting, also deserve a thanks. And I thank my team for all the work. This program could not have been a great success without support from All India Radio, particularly from CEO Prasar Bharati, Mr. Shashi Shekhar Ganpati, because of their wide variety of collection and exhibition, and Doordarshan. Everybody has just make it large, and everybody is just enjoying the event. So thank you, sir, for your presence here, and also all support from Doordarshan and All India Radio. We are equally grateful to other sponsors and our guest, Mr. Atul Tiwari, who has rightly graced the occasion and help us in getting some more importance to this event. Thank you, sir, for your kind presence. No doubt, UNESCO, Mr. Eric is always supportive of all the programs. We have been doing number of programs. Like today, we are celebrating Radio Festival. On 2021, with the UNESCO, we are celebrating International Mother Language Day in the same very hall. So thank you, Mr. Eric, for all support and making IGNCA proud in having such international programs. There are a number of other people associated with this, and particularly the speakers, the panelists, the performers, all artists. Everybody has contributed significantly to become this radio festival a great success. I thank them all. There may be certain other individuals and institutions who have helped in organizing this event. I'm grateful to everybody on behalf of SMART, IGNCA, UNESCO. My sincere thanks to all. You have many of you may have come IGNCA first time. I request you to visit our building on the other side, Mansingh Road side. We have wonderful library which opened 9 to 8 p.m. every day except Sunday. We have great collections, resources, exhibitions are going on. You will really find the information very useful. Once again, I request to visit Kalanidhi and IGNC again and again. Thank you very much, and best wishes for the program. Thank you.